What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Around the A YouTube podcast. Blake Newsom back with Mike and Neil tonight. And guys, it's not the Falcons for once. We are talking about those six-time defending NL East champion, 2021 World Series champion, Atlanta Braves. Micah, how are we doing tonight? Coming in here on the night of March 11th, 2024. Spring training is well underway, and the boys are back and ready to defend their Eastern crown and get back into the swing of things, looking for another championship here. Something the 90s Braves couldn't do, which was win two championships in a single window. How are we feeling about our Bravos this year, and how excited are you for this upcoming season as a newer baseball fan yourself?
Man, I'm excited. The Braves team just continue to get better and better, and for like you said, a new fan joining at a perfect time. The Braves won the World Series the first year I actually started to watch baseball seriously. Not a bandwagon, so nobody in the comments try that. But yeah, just seeing them get better. Series of championship. You don't see that a lot in sports. A team continue to get better after winning a championship, but the Braves have done that, and I'm just excited for this season and ready to see what the future holds. Hopefully, we can get that next championship.
So that's crazy to me that you just happen to be one of those people that just started to follow during that World Series year and they won. Like, man, you didn't have to suffer through. I mean, granted, I'm young myself, so my first year was like 2009, 2010, but I had to suffer through the Brooks Conrad game. I had to suffer through the 2011 collapse, the infield fly rule game, losing to Juan Uribe in 2013, and then just the rebuild. That rebuild was tough, man. Any sense of talent we got, we traded it. And finally, by the time we got back to the playoffs in 2018, your boy was at boarding school for that year. I didn't even get to watch anything. I didn't. I heard Ronald Acuna's grand slam on the radio by Jim Powell. It's gone. So I went through the trenches with the Braves. I saw Mike Fultonevich in person give up 10 runs in a playoff game in the first inning of win or go home. That wasn't fun. That wasn't
It's
fun.
crazy.
And then I saw him blow it in a Mickey Mouse year. But then we won it. So that's when you joined. So just recap my fandom years. Anyways, what the boys of summer are back is all
Yes,
we're here to
sir.
say, right? And I'm full of energy tonight. I don't know why. Micah knows why, but I'm not gonna say why. I'm going crazy right now. I need some sleep. Put it that way. But the grind never stops here on the Around the A YouTube channel. You guys love the support of the Raheem Morris video a couple days ago. You guys make sure to keep giving that video some love. Like, comment, subscribe down below to the Around the A YouTube channel. Got a Hawks video coming out for you guys sooner than later, and we got another Falcons video coming out with you guys Wednesday or Thursday regarding Kirk Cousins. So yeah,
Kirko Chains.
Kirko chains. All right, now it's time to talk about Ronald's chains because the boys of summer are back. But first, Micah, it's time we take everybody back through the offseason as we haven't had a chance to have some of our own discussions throughout the offseason, of course, because of how busy we've been. So we're gonna go, I guess, quickly through a list of major candidates that major key people to the Braves organization that they lost. Specifically, I guess we'll start with the player side, and I definitely want to have a special segment for guys like Ron Washington and Eric Young Sr. But obviously, the Braves lose both Jesse Chavez and Kevin Pillar to free agency. They both signed with the White Sox, two veterans in the locker room. Not easy to replace. Eddie Rosario, you lose him. He signs a minor league deal with the Nationals. I guarantee he does some damage versus us this year. Kirby Yates ends up getting a better deal than I think the Braves would have offered him in the Texas Rangers bullpen, so good for him. Also, lost Kyle Wright and Nick Anderson in trades to the Kansas City Royals. Both of them have really bad shoulder injuries, and the Braves don't really have high hopes on them coming back from them. Colby Allard is now a Philadelphia Philly, so glad that bum is out of my organization. Bye-bye. Colin McHugh and Brad Hand pretty much retired, so those guys are gone. Yanni Chirinos, bye bye. So long to him. But the big blockbuster one, Micah, was on November 16th when the Braves traded 6 players for a middle relief lefty outfielder from the Chicago White Sox that has a couple years of control. And it's Aaron Bummer. But in that deal, the Braves sent the White Sox Michael Soroka, former first round pick, just finally came back from his injuries last year. Jared Schuster, another first round pick out of Wake Forest out of the pitching laboratory. Nicky Lopez, who played a lot of everyday second base when Ozzie was hurt last year and improved a lot in his second half in Atlanta. Braden Shoemake, who was always the blocked prospect behind Dansby Swanson, and Riley Gowans, who was more of a high A, like a throw in. But you lost all of those guys for Aaron Bummer. Moving along, you lose Michael Tonkin to the New York Mets. Um, you get back Chadwick Tromp, so you don't lose him for long. He decided that home is here in Atlanta, and he had some separation anxiety himself, so he decided to come quickly back to the Braves, nice and swiftly. Two of our pitching prospects, Cole Phillips and Jackson Coar, who we got back for Kyle Wright, both sent to the Seattle Mariners for Marco Gonzalez, Evan White, and a player that just happened to be named Jared Kelenic. Not sure if you've heard of him, Micah. Um, Lost Braves legend Max Stassi and Marco Gonzalez and Evan White, who were all on the team for about, I don't know, a week or so. Light work. Lost Drew Campbell, who was in the system for a long time. Ironically, the same name as the kicker of my high school team when I was there, and I called a game-winning field goal with his same name. So that's just a funny little thing. The Braves lose future Hall of Famer, not really, but future Hall of very good player, Matt Carpenter, who they got back in the trade for Drew Campbell and Ray Kerr, and he ends up going back to St. Louis to retire. But one that really sucks in the month of December is the Braves lost their, top pedigree shortstop, who everybody loved, Michael Harris's best friend, Vaughn Grissom. And so we're wishing him the best as the Braves were able to flip him for Chris Sale. Looking through the month of January, it looks like the Braves were doing a lot of gaining that offseason. Really, all they lost was Tyler Owens, who they acquired a month earlier in exchange to the Texas Rangers for JP Martinez to get some more right-handed, outfield options behind Jared Kelenic. And that was pretty much all they, lost player-wise. Micah, why don't you give the fans a little bit of a rundown on some of the key role model elements that the Braves lost elsewhere in their organization this offseason.
Well, the two biggest, the ones everybody know about, third base and first base coaches, Ron Washington and Eric Young. Um, very, very big key pieces for the Braves. Everybody loved Ron Washington. Ozzie Albies like his best friend. Um, Eric Young senior, my bad. But yeah, very very key pieces there. The entire organization love him, and uh, like me and Blake was talking the other day, that's a sign that your franchise, your organization is doing good when your coaches are being taken or um hired from by another organization, and we've seen with the Braves all the winning we've been doing the past years. It's something that could have been expected to happen, and here we are with the new first and third base coaches, and wish the best for Ron Washington. He's a great guy, great coach, and Eric Young senior also. So those are the two biggest ones that I know about.
Yeah, I definitely want to give a huge shout out to Ron Washington for everything he's done for this team since he's come over. He didn't have to come here. He could have
Nope.
easily rode off into the sunset, and he really didn't also have to go manage again. He could have, been done 2 jobs ago after his time with the Texas Rangers came to an end when they ended that era of a lot of winning that they did in Texas before just recently, where they won it all with Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer and Bruce Bochy. But point is, Ron Washington did so much for this team over the years. Great base coach in general. Won the Braves so many big games, playoff, regular season alike. Sending guys, holding guys, being aggressive. He was a mastermind. But also the work he did with those infielders every day. I don't like Micah, as someone who used to work at the stadium, I got to witness it firsthand every single day and just see the daily craft that Ron Washington would go through with these guys. And I got to tell you, man, it was something spectacular to watch. Just all the fungos he would hit with every single player, all the reps they would get with the oven mitt gloves every single day to try to improve. And you could see it every night. That's why the Braves infield, unless your name is Vaughn Grissom, of course, would very rarely make errors. Dansby, airtight defense. RCA, airtight defense. Riley gotten better every single year. Freddie, airtight. Ozzy, not quite as good since the shift has kind of made his range a little bit bigger, but still a very solid defender in his own right. And Olsen was better last year than his first year in Atlanta as a defender as well. So that's all credit to Ron Washington, Sean Murphy too. Sean Murphy, and guys like Stephen Vogt. You had some really good defensive catchers over the years. Tyler Flowers, another one too, who's still with the organization. A lot of that was Ron Washington's doing, and keeping those guys the way they are, keeping them loose, but making sure that they had that mentality to go hard and 100% every single day. And I will forever be appreciative for him. And it really sucks to know that he has such a hard task ahead of him in fixing what is the Los Angeles Angels at Anaheim. Comes in after Shohei. Mike Trout's probably out the door on the way, quicker than he's been there. If that made any sense, that's my no sleep showing. But I'm wishing him the best, and he brought Eric Young Sr. with him. It's gonna be a long time, but I'm hoping that he sticks through it and he finds some dividends in winning in Anaheim before he finally hangs it up for good and calls it a deserved retirement. Same for EY. He was a very big role model, was very loose, had the clubhouse vibing before every single game. Worked with the outfielders every single day. He's the reason him and Andrew Jones are the reason Michael Harris is the way he is. The way Ender Inciarte was the way he was. Markakis, very solid fielder in his own right. Kellenic, looking like more of the same. Eddie Rosario, and then he could see last year. Won a Gold Glove. Ronald, like the Braves pride themselves on these little things, and it starts with these guys. And I am so happy to see them get chances at other spots. But I'll always be forever grateful as a fan for a very long time now of Ron Washington and Eric Young seniors. Um, you know, salutes to this organization.
And
Micah, any
I,
last
my fault. I didn't mean to interrupt. But I just want to add that like I said at the beginning of the show, I became a fan in 2020. Haven't you know a real fan that started watching games seriously and like learning about the game in 2020, and just 3 years of watching games loyally, faithfully. You could see the impact of Ron Washington within the team in the organization. Well, like Blake said, before the games, he's working with the players, and that's a coach. Like, and Blake said that he could have retired before he came, and he could have, he got his World Series championship in Atlanta, and that's just from the work that he put in Atlanta. He didn't have to come. Um he didn't have to be that the type of coach he was. He was a players coach, a manager, my fault, players manager, and he worked hard, and we seen the results, um and from my how to say it, from me being a newer fan, I'm able to even notice the work he put in, and like Blake said, I am also appreciative of the work that he put in his time in Atlanta.
This will be one of the only times I ever say something that's not quite PG on this podcast, but Micah, asses and elbows, baby. Asses and elbows. Yes, I love the little Ron dance you did there. Yes. Also very, very nice guy. But with those guys out the door, it opens up opportunities for guys like Hunter Goodwin, now the new first base coach, and Matt Tuiasosopo, who that's gonna be a fun name for you to learn. almost as hard as Kevin Herder. Oh, but that was the new third base coach. Apparently, he's taking over all the same drills. So I'm expecting things to carry on. But players come out, players leave, but expectations go on. And going on is the expectation, as Michael Harris said, every year for the Atlanta Braves, it is World Series or bust. And Micah, is that accurate? Is it World Series or bust for the Braves this year? Did they do enough to satisfy what that is, being that they just won 2 years ago, but in those 2 years following, you've lost to the same team in back-to-back years that you're way ahead of, that also happen to be your second biggest division rival.
I mean, it's always a great mindset to have for a top team with Atlanta being the having the most wins last season. And being 100 win team, 100 wins is the expectation. 100 plus wins is expectation too. And I love this being the mindset around the entire series or bust. We shouldn't have any lower expectations with the lineups that we have on offense. We got hitters from 1 through 9, and even with pitching, we got Spencer Strider, Max Fried, got aces there, and we've added to the bullpen and the starting rotation. So we I would say that we got better this season, and Series or bust is a more than realistic mindset to have for the team.
Follow up to that because I 100% agree, but I think Twitter knows my opinion on a lot of the stuff by now. Which, by the way, if those of you that aren't following us on Twitter, make sure you guys give us a follow below. Me at Newsman Sports ATL. I tweet Braves all the time, and make sure to give Micah a follow as well if you really want to. I guess at Micah 2IN. And we'll talk some ball with you guys. But for someone who is very active in Braves Twitter community and hated for a lot of reasons. I think I'm really starting to redeem myself, and people are starting to understand my point of view of where I'm coming from. Excited to host the pregame and postgame Twitter Spaces this year, and so Mike, I hope to see you there sometimes as well for these games, kind of like Hawks Fan TV style, like ESPN Eric Falcon style. But I'm bringing it to the Brave side of Twitter because given that platform, and I see some growth there that I feel like can really be productive for this community. So make sure you guys give us a follow on Twitter down below, Micah TYN and Newsom Sports ATL, and make sure you guys have those notifications on because as soon as the season starts, man, we're gonna have your pregame and postgame shows covered regarding your daily Atlanta Braves action. But Micah, a follow up to that, of course. If the Braves are World Series contenders, which we think they are, you got to think they got to go through the Phillies and Dodgers, two teams that we have often met with at the playoffs. Been a crossroad. One team was our Achilles heel. You get over the hump. You think we're finally there. We're over 500 against them since that series has ended. Granted, and now this new team comes in the way, and now they're in our head, and that's the Phillies. Who great? I'm not one of those Braves fans that takes away anything from them. The Mets, they kind of suck. I'm not gonna lie. That 2022 Mets team was not that good. I will not take anything away from the Phillies. The Phillies are a damn good ball club, and they will be for the next couple years. They have their guys locked up just like ours. Will they be as good as the Braves? Probably not. But like a lot of them say, they beat the Braves twice when it really mattered most. And so because of that, I sometimes have to think to myself, are we better than the Los Angeles Dodgers who went out and went upon losing in the first round for the second year in a row much differently according to their offseason, just spending billions on talent. While the Phillies as well probably didn't get as many names as I thought. I thought there'd maybe be a world where they landed someone like a Josh Hader or some other like flatline starter instead of just extending their own, which is Wheeler and Nola. They extended both of those guys this offseason. Didn't really add anybody to the bullpen either. But they ran it back with their guys. And, they added Whit Merrifield, a very, very quality um, utility man to that lineup. Mike, I'll ask you. Hot takes only here, man. Are the Atlanta Braves, as we see here on March 11th, 2024, better than both the Philadelphia Phillies and the Los Angeles Dodgers? Dodgers, wow. And let me start that over because I know we're gonna do a clip out. So, are the Atlanta Braves, as we see here on March 11th, 2024, Mr. Neal? Hot takes only. Are they better than both the Philadelphia Phillies and the Los Angeles Dodgers? If they are planning to make and win a World Series, they got to go through them, right?
I would say confidently that the Braves are better than um the Phillies. But like you said, we have to we could beat them in the regular season all we want. To get to when it matters, the win or go home, the playoff games. That's when it matters most, and we have to win those games. We can't continue to lose to the same team in the playoffs. They've had our number, and we can say that, but we need that to change come playoff time, and we can't continue to have the same result. And when it comes to the Dodgers, I feel like the Braves and the Dodgers are the two teams to beat. in the National League. Both offenses are hitters everywhere on both sides. Um, the Dodgers are just cheating with the with their pitching. Added Shohei Ohtani too. Like I'm a new baseball fan, so I'm not sure how they're getting all this money to sign all this talent. But um,
That's a story for next episode. I'll be just a little story time for you. I'll explain it. I'll let you
yeah,
know
but
this though. To relate it to basketball, it's Magic
mhm,
Johnson's pocketbook.
crazy. Yeah,
He's the owner.
yeah, that's crazy. But the Dodgers, like I said, Dodgers and Braves are two top teams to beat, and um, we see we seen the games last year during the regular season. Those were great games. Felt like playoff games in the regular season. So I look forward to that matchup. You're never gonna be scared of any matchup. Um, I'm always picking my team to beat any team. So I I got the Braves as the best team. Y'all could say bias, but I call it loyalty. I call it trust in my team, and I'm standing on that. And you said hot takes only, so I will say the Braves are better than the Phillies and Dodgers.
You got me at that part where I said hot takes only because you know where I stand on my realism. I'll say this: they're better than the Phillies over 162 for sure. I don't know if they're gonna finish better than the Dodgers, but I think they do have a better team on paper than the Dodgers. But I have no idea, right? But one other team I also want to mention is the Diamondbacks did a great offseason as well. The team that did knock off both the Dodgers and the Phillies last year. The Dodgers will not be going anywhere. Or excuse me, the Diamondbacks will not be going anywhere. They had a great year last year. Young team snuck in, got that experience, and they are going to be even better this year. So keep a lookout for Arizona. When we face them in the home opener this year, we'll see them nice and early. All right, though. We spent about 20 minutes or so recapping the offseason. Let's get into some spring training news, right? Well, we're going to talk about a lot of these players that are new to the team, how their spring's been doing, kind of what we project for them this year. We're going to have some position battles. And again, we're filming this on March 11th. So some of the players have been sent to minor league camp. But, we're still, a lot of these players we're mentioning are going to be part of the team at some point, whether it's, an all star in Gwinnett or it's going to be in the everyday roster for the major leagues. Like these guys are going to make an impact for the 2024 Braves. So just keep that in mind, guys. Like we do have a segment about Hurston Waldrop, who I know just like 2 days ago as a recording after his most recent start did get optioned to minor league camp, which makes sense. That was going to happen, but I still want to talk about him just for, the content. We haven't done a Braves show since October, but just because I feel like there is still a lot of stuff to talk about, storylines regarding him. Anyways, house cleaning business out of the way. Aaron Bummer, Mr. Neal. You mind giving a couple stats from what you found out from him earlier this evening to the audience?
Um, well, like Blake said earlier, this was a six-player trade. The Braves acquired Aaron Bummer for Soroka, Schuster, Nicky Lopez, Shoemake, and Riley Goins. Um, over from last season, he had a 5-win, 5-loss season with a 6.79 ERA. Over his career, 14 wins, 15 losses, 3.84 ERA.
That
And I
doesn't
know
tell the true
Blake's gonna
story. That
Blake's
does
gonna
not
talk
tell
about
the true
the
story. Yeah.
the FIP. I personally couldn't find the FIP, and I don't know where to find the FIP at this moment. So
Mike is learning, guys. I'm trying to teach him over here. So, but yeah, Aaron Bummer is a I've wanted the Braves to trade for one of the lefties in the White Sox bullpen for a long time. I was a big fan of Garrett Crochet for a long time, but the White Sox are trying to stretch him back out, so it'll be interesting to see him in the same rotation as Kopech, as Dylan Cease, the Milton High School graduate, and two former Braves, Schuster and Soroka. That'll be a very interesting rotation to watch over on the south side of Chicago. But what I will say, Micah, Aaron Bummer has a couple years of control on his contract, so the Braves have him cheap for the next couple years. And his FIP is under 3. And for those of you that don't know from watching at home, FIP is like your ERA, but just with the pitcher and catcher involved. It takes out all the good luck and bad luck defensively, and it's mostly what your true ERA would indicate if it was just you and the catcher and, of course, the batter in the box. And Aaron Bummer's FIP last year was under 3, which is elite stuff. The strikeouts per 9 were still there at over 9 per And also rule of thumb for you, Micah, you don't have to include pitcher win stats in 2024 anymore, so you can throw that out the window. But yes, Aaron Bummer I think is going to be a very big part of this bullpen. Especially you got a couple question marks, which we'll talk about later. A couple lefties that they added. AJ Minter's on a contract here. Same with Max Fried, of course. But not sure if Tyler Matzik or Dylan Lee come back to form. Ray Kerr, you added Perdomo, who you won't see most of the year. So definitely good to get at least a little bit more of familiarity and some insurance at that left-handed relief spot because the Braves truly didn't have it last year when Dylan Lee got hurt and when Lucas Letke was an awful letdown. All the Braves had was Brad Hand from the trade deadline on, and he is just not the same pitcher he was 6 years ago when he was an all-star. And there's a reason that the Braves declined that option and let him go. And so that Aaron Bummer, super excited to have him here in Atlanta this year. Micah, from a few things you have heard about him, what are your expectations?
Well, just looking around from going on Twitter to the conversations with you, watching a couple of spring training, it sounds like we got somebody good and somebody that's gonna improve this team. This is a type of like last season Blake was talking about. We need pitching at the trade deadline, and I feel like
Still standing on business with that, by the way.
I
I
feel like
called that Jordan Flaherty on this show, or excuse me, Jordan Montgomery. I called that on this show, and look at him, World Series champion, about to get paid the big bucks. I know ball, Micah. Go ahead.
yeah, and I feel like Alex has noticed that we need more pitching on this team, and he's put out an effort this year to get more pitching, and um we still, like Blake said, still work to be done, but he hasn't left it alone and not tried to improve at the pitcher position.
So we also got one of his former teammates, who we're talking about here in just a second, a righty who there's a little bit of a stitch in this conversation, which I'll explain to the viewers. It's Ronaldo Lopez, who I absolutely loved. That was pretty much our first free agent signing of the offseason. Aaron Bummer was a couple of days in, but this was the first acquisition we made outside of retaining our own, like Pierce Johnson and Joey Menes, who we'll talk about in a little bit later. But man, was this a amazing signing. So to give you a little back load on him, Micah was drafted by the Nationals way back in the day, and him and Lucas Giolito, ironically the other person that I mentioned in the Jordan Montgomery idea, him and Lucas Giolito have been traded with each other 3 different times in their career. From the Nationals, they're in their minor leagues, to the White Sox. Spent a couple years together in the White Sox rotation as two awful members. Giolito figured it out. Lopez figured it out in the bullpen, pumping 102, 103 with movement, which is absolutely disgusting. He gets traded at the deadline with Giolito to the Angels last year, who were trying to make the playoffs with Shohei Ohtani. Obviously, did not work out that well. But I did get to see him at a game late in the season versus the Braves last year when he was with Anaheim. Struck out Ronald Acuna Jr. like it was easy. And keep in mind, Ronald was the unanimous National League Most Valuable Player last year. And he was pumping cutters at 102, 103 with some nasty movement. Just one of the filthiest, non-closers that I've ever seen. And the Braves got him. But here's the kick. They got him for about $10 million a year for like 3 years, 4 years. Awesome deal. But I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, he came up as a starter, wasn't very good at all. And you know where I stand on the Braves with their starting rotation. Glad they got Sale. Still wish they did more. Because I want these rookies to not have to be fully relied upon. They don't usually work. Max Fried is the outlier, not the example. A lot of these pitchers, they haven't worked. And so the Braves are stretching out Ronaldo Lopez to be a starter to start the year. And to my surprise, not really. The fan base has been brainwashed in this offseason into thinking that's actually a good thing. Spoiler alert, it's not. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan that we're paying somebody who is a 102, 103, 7th inning, 8th inning Nazi reliever, maybe right behind Minter and Iglesias, to start a game when he's like a career 5 ERA starter. He looks good so far as a starter in spring training, sure, but Dylan Dodd and Jared Schuster were good starters last year too. So I'm okay with him being a spot starter. And if that means he about once a month or so he needs to fill in a 4 game series as like that 6 man spot and he hasn't pitched in a couple of days in the bullpen, that's fine. He can start a couple games here and there. That's cool. That's cool and fine and dandy. That's how Strider was when he first started too. But don't try to get a Ferrari and keep it parked in the garage. And that's what the Braves are kind of doing, stretching out this guy to throw 5 or 6 innings because that velocity is going to come right back to 97, 98. And that's the very mediocre pitcher he was with the Nationals and the White Sox organizations before he became this nasty reliever. So I hope that the young pups figure it out very quickly that start AAA. That's probably Elder, Shaver, Waldrop, Vines. One of them figures it out, channels it really quickly. They move Lopez into the bullpen where he belongs, and they kill two birds with one stone. But overall, I will say I am very, very excited that he is part of this team, and he might honestly, spoiler alert, be my favorite new addition to the team this offseason. Your thoughts on everything you know about him so far?
Uh,
Ronaldo.
like you said, we got him for 33 or 30 mil contract. Um, you don't like the ERA, but like you said, 4.5 ERA, 3.27 last year, and his FIP was 2.16 last year. So
Nasty.
yeah, like when you have a defense behind you, like Orlando Arcia, Austin Riley, Michael Harris, Ronald Acuna. You got people back there that's gonna help him out, and like Blake said, the hope is for him to not turn to what he was with the Nationals, and be able to be the fifth starter and actually produce and get us wins, and not turn back to what he used to be. And if he's able to do that, it'd be huge for the Braves, and it'd be huge for us to win games. And if he could stay healthy along with the rest of the pitcher rotation and the bullpen, the Braves will have a whole lot of nasty in there on the pitching side come playoff time.
In the similar ways that I was torn between Justin Fields and Kirk Cousins today is a similar way I am with Ronaldo Lopez in the bullpen with the rotation. Because, like, obviously, I want it to work out with him in the rotation because that means that the Braves' starting staff looks even better. But I just know that that's not where he's meant to be when he's pumping 95, 96, 97 instead of the 102, 103 with movement that he has out of the bullpen in the sixth and the seventh inning. Like, that is just, that's something that you can't, like, replace. You can't make that up. And the Braves, I'll say it again. It feels like they got a brand new sparkly Ferrari, Rolls Royce looking car, Micah, and they're just putting it in the garage as a shelving unit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've been all over social media again this offseason. Like, I like Chris Sale. We'll talk about him in a minute. But I wish they also signed another starter. There was so many starters that got fair market value and I'm not saying they needed to get an ace. I just needed somebody else that I could rely on in the middle of the rotation that's had healthy careers. And so many guys signed this offseason to fair market value. So for the people that are like, oh, well, he got overpaid. No, they didn't. Guys like Aaron Nola, Sonny Gray, Eduardo Rodriguez, who I really, really, really wanted, Marcus Stroman, Luis Severino, um, Michael Waka. Giolito was awesome, and now he's unfortunately going to have the surgery and probably miss most of the season with the Red Sox, who we signed a 1 year prove it deal with. Feel so bad for him. And my guy Jordan Montgomery is still out there. Now I don't think that happens, being that he's a Scott Boras client, and he's the one that makes all the big bucks. He's the one that has all the players left out in free agency till this long anyway. Same with Blake Snell and JD Martinez. So we will see, but I don't think it happens. But I would love it to, because there's your rotation. There's your Max Fried lefty replacement for the future. And you put this nasty guy right back into the bullpen where he belongs. All right, Micah, let's talk about one of our position players. And this one, ironic story to this one. I was at the Braves A-list event day in early December. And I don't know, off season had been going on for about a month or so at this point. And when I left, I made a tweet that night that said, "Let's make some trades. Let's get some pitchers, and I'll be back here in March." Right. And that very night, I'm laying in bed, and I actually get to bed for once at a really good time. And I see the Braves go up and trade for Jared Kelenic. I'm like, whoa, okay. Backstory on him for those who don't know: former top 5 pick in the major leagues by the New York Mets. Was in the Edwin Diaz Mets trade that sent Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz to New York for Kelenic and a couple other prospects. Some of them panned out with Seattle, some others, but he was supposed to be the big one. Like Julio Rodriguez, it's his team up there now. Julio's the guy, but Kelenic was supposed to be like the Batman to his Robin. You know what I mean? Like he was supposed to be that guy as well. And Edwin Diaz had a pretty rocky start with the Mets until like 2022 had that Mariano Rivera like season, and shout out to him, pitched for the first time in over a year today on the mound, and struck out the side. So don't like that, but always good to see Sugar healthy. And so these guys will always be linked together because they were traded for one another. And so the big storyline of this is, Eddie Rosario was a great player for the Braves, right? But he just wasn't consistent enough. He wasn't. Always thankful for what he did in the 2021 National League Championship Series and in that playoffs in general. Those cycles he hit when he came over, getting him for Pablo Sandoval, who was also very fun in his time here. But he just was not consistent. He'd hit 400 one month, awesome. But then you'd have a whole month of him hitting 160 without drawing a walk. I think the Braves were kind of done with that for $9 million. They saw Kelenic as an option, who's someone who has 4 years of control, 4 years of control for rookie on a rookie deal, being his service time is still so low. And it's low risk, high reward. You go from Seattle, a ballpark that didn't have a lot of hitting potential, to Truist Park, which is humid and hitter friendly, in a lineup that has a lot more help than Seattle's did last year. That lineup was so strikeout oriented, it was scary. And so you put him in a lineup like this, where I think the plan is for him to hit ninth, and you put him in front of Ronald Acuna Jr. That usually works wonders because you hit somebody in front of Ronald Acuna Jr., Michael, they're going to get pitches to hit because the pitcher is not going to try to pitch around the guy when Ronald Acuna is on base. You don't want base runners. You don't want to put a guy on base for Ronald to come up with. So that's why guys like Michael Harris and recently Orlando Arcia have been all-star caliber players hitting in that 9-hole position because Ronald Acuna is hitting right behind him. And so I love the idea that the Braves are going to hit this kid ninth. Kid as in someone who's 4 years older than me. And we're going to see if this true potential comes to be unlocked. It doesn't have to be fully. He doesn't have to be anything crazy. He doesn't have to be this superstar. But if he can be a little bit more consistent than Eddie Rosario's been for the 7 years younger he is and the years of control we got, my goodness, will this be an absolute steal of a trade for Alex Anthopolous, especially being that the two pitchers that we gave up in that deal, Jackson Kowar and Cole Phillips, who was a prospect of ours, both are going to be receiving Tommy John surgery before the season starting, basically making them miss all of this season and part of the 2025 campaign. Meanwhile, we just took in a little bit of money. Marco Gonzalez traded him to Pittsburgh. Evan White traded him back to the West. That money comes off the books this year. Maybe that money can go to Max Fried, yes. And we could potentially get our left fielder of the future for really, really cheap. Micah, thoughts on Mr. Kelenic from Wisconsin?
Man, I've like from the time just reading the comments, fans from opposing teams, like how do the Braves keep getting away with this and stuff like that, and it's exciting to see Alex not getting comfortable and always looking to improve um with this team and um like you said, he's young and it's a low risk, high reward type of situation. We've seen the Sean Murphy trade last year, and we seen how they brought up Michael Harris the year previous, and we just we've been getting lucky with players turning out to you know be positives for us, and I think Kellenick will do very good with this team when he got players like Acuna or Austin Riley, Matt Olson, um, with him. Teams got to pick their poison, and the
He
pitcher's
just
not.
has to be like the eighth best hitter in this lineup. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like if you look at it, Ronald, Ozzy, Austin, Michael, Sean, Olson, Azuna. There's seven guys right there. You got Travis as well. He basically just has to be better than like a platoon Travis Darno and Orlando Arcia every day. And that's fine. You're doing us plenty service. You know what I mean? Whatever other guy we sign along the way to fill that bench. Like that's all we need from him. Just be a little bit more consistent than Eddie. Show your youth. That's all, man.
yeah. And he's coming off a season with 94 hits and 11 home runs, a 32 career home runs. Like I said, pitcher's not gonna be able to have the heat for every hitter out there. They're gonna have to pick their and if not gonna throw if not gonna have gonna have the heat for Acuna or Olsen or um anyone ahead of him. They're not gonna have it rotation. And if the lineup is hot, good luck to the opposing teams. And like I said, the pressure is not and when you're able to play pressure free in any sport, you're gonna play good because you don't have to worry about pressing or trying too hard to do something. You're gonna play your game. You're gonna be comfortable, and I definitely see him succeeding on this team, and this being a still of a trade for Alex Anthopolous.
Yeah, one thing I do want to mention, his first 50 games of the season last year came up absolutely scorching the ball, lefty lefty as well, which is why I think the Braves are not really out there to try to get a righty platoon bat. Even some of the familiar faces we've had on this team, guys like Guillermo Heredia, Adam Duvall, and Kevin Pillar were all options this offseason. The Braves decided to not go with them, which I'm fine with. I feel like I'm been there, done that. I'm still in a very benefit where I'll talk about it later. Where I still want them to sign Michael A. Taylor to a cheap deal. I would love that, especially his upside defensively as a righty in the outfield. But Mike, I don't know if you know this, but it's like really hard to hit lefty lefty in the majors. Like righty righty a little bit more standard, but like lefty lefty that sucks. That could suck. And Kellenic was lighting the world on fire for about the first 2 months or so last year. Had like a 900 near OPS, hit about 10 bombs in the first 2 months, and then he followed it up by about 60 games, which is absolutely nothing. Where he came back down to earth. His swing wasn't the same. He was striking out a bunch, and he missed almost all of the rest of the season. By one night, got really angry, came back to the dugout, and started slamming his foot against a water cooler. He found out he later broke his foot and missed about 95% of the rest of the season. And, he felt like that was kind of the end of his time in Seattle. And he felt so bad that he let down his teammates, especially in a year where Seattle just missed the postseason by one game last year in that division with Texas and Houston, who were representing the AL for the World Series over the last 2 years. Um, the Braves are hoping that A, that's behind him, but B, he knows how to channel that energy the right way. And if you can channel that energy the right way, you're in a spot where all of a sudden you have a little bit more fire and dog in this postseason clubhouse that they had in 2021 and guys like Heredia and Jock Peterson that they didn't have the last 2 years going up against the scrap and fight and Phils who are absolutely flipping you off. The other guy who the Braves acquired this offseason who is known to have a fire up under his ASS at all times, Chris Sale. The southpaw from the Boston Red Sox came over via trade for Vaughn Grissom. The Braves go on and extend him to a 2 or 3 year team friendly extension after this one, basically securing yourself. If Charlie Morton retires, you have a veteran in the rotation. If you lose Max Fried, you got a lefty in the rotation. Love it for both of those deals. And a guy that, in 2018 was the best pitcher in baseball. Not saying that's what he is anymore, but someone who, if healthy, which is the biggest thing for me, because he hasn't really been able to stay healthy over the last 4 years or so, can easily be a dominant all-star type pitcher. And Mike, I was telling you about Ks per nine before the show. Chris Sale has the highest starting pitching Ks per nine in the history of Major League Baseball. I want to say it's something like 13 or 14 Ks per nine. And even last year, in a down year, coming off injuries where he pitched to a near 4.3 ERA with a FIP of about 3.6, the strikeouts were still there about 13 or 14 Ks per nine. So one thing you can expect, Micah, is he's going to be like Spencer Strider out there from the left side, completely different arm slot, but he's going to be striking dudes out, and it's going to be something to watch. And he is going to bring that fire. He is the type of guy that if he doesn't like the jersey a certain team's wearing that day, he's going to tear the whole friggin' clubhouse up and make sure someone does not wear it and wreck it in the process. He is a fire breathing dragon. That's Chris Sale. And super excited to have him in that nasty arm slot with a chance to dethrone teams like the Phillies and the Dodgers and all their lefties because the Braves are going to need him and him healthy in the postseason for them to have a chance and not have to throw guys like Bryce Elder and Jesse Chavez as playoff starters anymore. Micah, what was your first impressions when they traded for him and everything you've learned from him since then? How fond are you of this Chris Sale guy who was a legend for the Boston Red Sox and as a young White Sox before that?
I remember when this trade broke, I was at my little sister's basketball game, and I seen, I believe it was Jeff passing, um, tweet, and which was another tweet where I went through the comments where people, how do the Braves keep getting away with this and all that, and this is another one I'm excited about. Like you said, he was the best pitcher in 2018. He was a 7-time consecutive All Star from 2012 to 2018. He led the American League in strikeouts in 2015 and 2017. And the main thing I've been seeing, just reading and reading through different articles, comments, Twitter, and all, is his health. And if is as simple as if he can stay healthy, he's gonna be a great player for us. And um, it's 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 always come down to health. A lot of time for Alex to bring in a player like him to add to this rotation with Spencer Strider and Max Fried already is just a huge win for the Braves. Um, It's just another situation where the pressure is not going to be on him to be the best pitcher here. He's not, the pressure is not even on him to be the second best pitcher here. He's he could play comfortable comfortably here, and have fun and, like I said, win games. And that's it. That's the situation for a lot of players here in Atlanta. For the Braves. Um, we have a very good team. Alex has done a great job building this team, and when you have the camaraderie in the locker in the or the clubhouse. Still learning, guys. You know, it's just a great thing to have, and this is a team win a World Series, and Braves are here. We just have to win, and Chris Sale brings us closer to getting to our next World Series championship.
Mike, a trivia question for you. You know what they call the Dodgers clubhouse?
No idea.
It's the
Oh, Mickey
Mickey
Mouse.
Mouse clubhouse. Come inside. You walked right into that one. But yes, very excited about Chris Sale. The one negative that like to us getting him, and I don't even know it's a negative, but the sad part of it is we did have to part with Vaughn Grissom, which you kind of had a feeling was coming, especially if they traded for Kellenic to play left field, and there was still really no intentions of moving Grissom out to left field with him showing that he's not a shortstop. And so Arcia, while isn't the greatest hitter, can at least hold down that position, and that's what you need from that spot in this lineup defensively. Vaughn Grissom is going to have one heck of a career with the Red Sox. I think someone is that kid is built for Fenway Park. I mean, hell, his first game came in Fenway Park, and he had a moonshot over the Green Monster. Now he gets to play there all the time. He's going to get to play some second base there, some left field, and that's not. I mean, that's an interesting left field because in left field you got one of these things behind you that you can't see, of course, on the screen. But this is a green screen right here. You got a big old green wall that's like 80 feet tall behind you out in Boston, a very beautiful ballpark built in 1912. Seen it myself, and Vaughn's going to have that behind him at all times. So it'll be a little bit easier to maneuver in the outfield than it would be in a lot of other places. But also second base, I feel like he profiles as an above average second baseman because that bat's going to play for Vaughn Grissom. You just need to put him in a spot where the defense doesn't kill him as much. Left field at Fenway does that. Second base in general does that, and get him up the middle with Trevor Story, someone else who's another former All-Star playing next to him at shortstop, who's got a lot of stuff to prove after a couple down years, after coming over from the stacked Rocky teams from a couple years ago. I'm wishing Vaughn Grissom the best, and a lot of times when I turn on Red Sox games, I'm going to be rooting to see him succeed because he is such a humble human being. Was such a fun story when he came up. It was one after the another. It was Michael, and then Spencer, and then Vaughn, and it was just over and over again with the guys. And they called him the troublemakers. And I hope that things work out for him. He was the original thought to be the heir to Dansby Swanson. Ron Washington did what he could with him defensively. Obviously he could only do so much. But wishing him the best, and I'm welcoming Chris Sale in with open arms as well, looking for some huge jolts in him out of the postseason. So Mike has to step away for just a second. So while I do that, I'll tell you guys about Ken Giles real quick. And Ken Giles, very much like Nick Anderson in the fact that, it was like a low risk, high reward signing for the Braves this year. And really rooting for this guy to make the team. Unfortunately, he's not going to be there at opening day. He's already been He's already been sent down to AAA camp from spring training. But Ken Giles, in his first inning of work against the Philadelphia Phillies, whose drafted ball club, struck out the side against a couple of the regulars, struck out Harper and Realmuto. And just like Nick Anderson last year is, a former closer with a lot of good stuff still out there. You just got to keep him healthy. Unfortunately, Nick Anderson couldn't in the second half of last season. But Ken Giles, completely different pitcher from what he was a couple years ago, completely changed his repertoire and his whole pitch mix. Looks like a old scraggly man now with the beard. But was definitely debatably the best closer in baseball from 2015 through 2018, and the Braves were able to scoop him up for pretty much nothing. And I was like, when I found out about this, I was super excited because that is just a chance to make your bullpen even deeper and the rich get richer. And that splitter looks a lot like Waldrop's, where it's going to play and it's going to miss bats. And I think it's only a matter of time before we see him get called up to the major leagues and have him dominating in this bullpen. I don't know if he's going to be a closer. I don't know if he's going to have that 1.4 ERA he did when he was younger, but I definitely think that he is going to be a big impact, middle to high relief arm for this team. And I'm super excited to see what Ken Giles does. I hope that he starts out strong in AAA, and he might be the potential first righty called up later in the season. So moving on with that, Mike, for just a minute, he'll be just a second or two. Talking about two guys that have just recently been sent down, and that's Bryce Elder and Darius Vines. And those two gentlemen, Elder kind of took the lead by storm last year, had the really good end in 2022, had a decent camp, but not good enough to beat out Schuster or Dodd for the fifth starter out of camp last year. Obviously, you know how things work out. He ends up, riding that monster first half, with all the ons, to a trip to Seattle for the All-Star game, and was, one of the best pitchers in the National League in the first half, which was huge for the Braves, being that they were missing Max Fried and Kyle Wright for so long, and Spencer Strider wasn't quite himself either in a lot of starts in that first half, which is why his ERA was ballooned the way it was. But he held the fort down for the Atlanta Braves, that's for sure. And but the second half was a completely different story for Bryce Elder, and the fact that, welcome back, Micah, he's a pitcher that can't live very far out of the zone and can't really live far off his target. With the low velocity speeds he throws at, a little bit of miss, and that's going to be a barrel zone, or it's going to be a ball taken easily. And so that's why in that second half, when he wasn't hitting his spots and his innings started to pile up like they were in the first half, those things that were getting called for strikes and swings and misses in the first half were now becoming doubles off the bat because they were finding a little too much plate. And with that velocity he sits at, which is 89, 90, 91, and in today's game, most pitchers throw 94, 95, 96, you got to learn how to pitch. And Elder showed that he hadn't really pitched before in a full season. And so I mean, Micah, you know where I stand on him. Hopefully, things kind of change for him and he learns a couple of new things. I'm definitely higher on him coming back to a usable pitcher than I am about Ian Anderson, which is not even mentioned in the show. But shout out World Series champion Ian Anderson, high school teammate of Kevin Herter, Ian Anderson. But I bet you didn't know that one. But regarding Darius Vines as well, he's someone that I always looked at as a reliever, and the reason I grouped these guys together is they were like competing as two righties for that same spot. Darius Vines was always someone I looked at as a reliever for the Atlanta Braves for all those years, and they just continued to stretch him out into the point where he did become a true starter. And I looked at him as a reliever because there was never really any guys that screamed future bullpen guy after AJ Minter graduated the system. The Braves really just kind of went away with that. They kind of just stuck with their failed starters until they worked, or they traded them for nothing in return, or they worked like Soroka did for a while, like Kyle did for a while, like Max did for a while. You didn't really see the Braves ever try to transition some of their, starting pitching prospects into bullpen guys. And now I think you're finally starting to see that because they're starting to realize that their bullpen gets a little old late in the season, like it did last year. You want some youth in there, like Daysville Hernandez. Um, and I think Darius Vines would have been an awesome reliever, but the Braves stretched him out. Similar repertoire to Elder, where he throws 90, 91, 92, 24, 25 years old. And they just need to fine tune their adjustments, become a better, corner painter, be a better pitcher in general regarding the location to better themselves up for success. And if they do, that's just another reason to give me confidence in this Braves team. Um, but yeah, Mike, I know I've been talking for just a minute. What you got regarding Elder Vines, if anything at all? You're muted.
Sorry about that. um, but I was saying, I don't know much about Darius Vines, but I can say about Bryce Elder. We've seen the type of player that he can be. He made the All Star game last season. Um, the first half of the season he was he was really good for us. And I'm looking for him to get back to that. He showed, like I said, he showed what he can be, and if he's able to show that he can be that and consistently, then uh, I'm 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 all in on him. And so if if he could play like that consistently, I got Bryce Elder uh winning that spot over Darius Barnes.
Gotcha. Let's talk about the two guys that are coming back from Tommy John surgery. And one's a little bit ahead of others. One is a hero. The other one is, as formerly mentioned, someone that I always looked at as a reliever. The Braves thought otherwise, but this guy could hit. Back when, my lord, that has to be like my ninth yawn of the video. Back when pitchers used to hit in the National League, like Max Fried, and he was a slugger himself. Huascar Yanoa could hit bombs, and he was a super fun watch as well at the plate. But both these guys coming back from Tommy John surgery this year. Matzik, of course, got it in October of 2022, right as that season was ending, after coming back to beat the Mets in that division, and that's why he didn't pitch at the very end of the year. So got a little ahead of time. While didn't really get his until like May of last year, so a little bit further behind. The Braves usually take them 15, 16 months to get these guys evaluated to where they want to be. But Matzik's velocity isn't quite there yet. He used to sit 95, 96. Now he's sitting more 92, 93. But, his slider is starting to get back to where he feels comfortable from where all the reports are at. But I think they're still trending on like a little bit of a rehab assignment to start the year just to kind of get him in the right ebbs and flows. So we'll see if he makes the opening day rotation, or excuse me, opening day bullpen roster or not. And then for Yanoa, I'm surprised that if I could do like a one little switcheroo, a one time switcheroo here, Micah, I'm putting Yanoa in the fifth starter conversation, and I'm putting Lopez just into the bullpen. Like, come on now, why are we being silly? But in all honesty, I do like Yanoa as a bullpen guy, as a two pitch guy, someone who struggled to kind of go 5 innings or so, but let that stuff fly and let that velocity climb for about 2 innings, an inning or so, you're gold. And I think that's exactly what the Braves are looking for out of Huascar Yanoa, and then Tyler Matzik, who of course will forever be written in Braves folklore, having a chance to join AJ Minter and Aaron Bummer as lefties in this bullpen. Same thing. He's like one of the only guys they hung on to from the last couple of years. Kind of changed his look from a starter into a reliever. They realized what his pitch mix was, and I think if he's healthy, has a chance to be a very solid piece of this team as well. What about yourself, Micah, regarding their Tommy John comebacks?
With Huascar Noah, I remember watching him during before I really became a fan that was committed to learning the game. I remember watching him during when we had virtual school for COVID. I remember watching him. He was pretty good during that time from what I can remember, and um, I remember he broke his hand hitting a what's called when he went back to the bench. So he got injured, and I haven't seen
Idiot,
him since
by
then.
the way. Idiot. He was pitching so well and was never the same after that. Just an idiot. The Braves couldn't catch a break at that time. Worst thing he could have done. Hope he's learned. Just like
Yeah.
Kalanick.
So he was pretty good from back then, and we all know what Tyler Matzik. He's just like Blake said, a hero. He's one of those players that like Cordell Patterson for the Falcons. He's one of
Well,
those.
that's kind of disrespectful to Matzik. like
I'm talking
Matt,
I'm
like
talking about for the energy type. The
fair, but like Matzik will never have to buy a beer in a bar in Atlanta again. I don't know
yeah.
if CP's at that level yet. Maybe, hopefully, come back, CP.
I'm
But,
I'm just
but
talking from the energy aspect, but Tyler Matzik obviously has done way more for Atlanta. Helping us get the
Vita
World Series.
Krejci, woo 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 woo.
But oh yeah, these are two um two players that are they've showed that they are good players, and I'm hoping both of them are able to bounce back and uh, make the team, make the rotation, and have a great year, great season for the Braves.
I'm going to run through a couple of these really quickly, Micah, because I know we're starting to run a little long here. Going to talk about our two pitching prospects that have both recently been sent down as well, but definitely have a chance to be huge parts of this team this year and moving forward long term, especially if there's no Charlie Morton or Max Fried in the fold after this year. Two guys that I'm very glad the Braves did not trade for guys like Dylan Cease this offseason, regardless of all the things I say about starting pitching. Hurston Waldrop, the first round pick out of the University of Florida, and AJ Smith Shawver, who graduated in high school in class of 2021, a year before me, 2 years before you. He's a young one, and he started throwing in high school. So that arm is fresh. Was a Texas Tech quarterback commit, AJ Smith Shawver. So has the arm, but is just starting to learn how to use it as a pitcher. And I tell you, man, his stuff looks like Strider sometimes when he's out there with that fastball and that slider combo. But Waldrop for sure is a first round. I got to see him at the University of Florida firsthand, dominant. That splitter is going to play. He just has to figure out his command. The velocity's all there and already looks a lot better from where I saw him last year in University of Florida to where I saw him in camp this year. He finished all the way at AAA last year after starting in low A. Low A, pitched a couple of games in high A, had a chunk of the year in Double A, got one start in Triple A to end the year. Good chance he probably goes back to Double A to start the season. Shawver maybe more of a Triple A guy, but these guys are going to be in the fold. Now for Waldrop, it's a tightrope that you don't want to walk because you don't want to see him too early. And I had someone ask me this on a Twitter space, like, how early do you want to see Waldrop? And I told him, I said, give me a time. He said, late May, early June. I'm like, well, then my thought process is what went wrong because he has to get from Double A to Triple A for them to rush him up, and that means that probably multiple pitchers are already hurt, and guys that have gotten the chance before him, a la Vines, Elder, Shawver, Winans, none of them were able to take the job by the throat. So that's not a good thing. You want to see Waldrop at some point as a spot starter, but you don't want to see him too early because that shows a testament of your coaching staff and how your pitching has been handled, how healthy they are. And for AJ Smith Shawver, more of the same. Just continue to learn that new pitch. Him and Shawver, him and Strider have both learned that curveball this offseason. They're both learning how to throw it together. And just continue to learn how to pitch. He's only been throwing for a couple years, so he's raw at this thing. But had a lot of good stuff from him last year for someone who's only a year older than me, 2 years older than you, Micah. Sky's the limit for him. You got years of control, and it'll definitely make losing a guy like Max Fried a little less hard if you got these two guys coming up to replace their production here in the next year or so. As much as I would still love to extend Max Fried. Regarding the position prospects, the two biggest guys that will also probably start in Double A, they both spent a lot of time together in High A Rome last year when I went to go see Max Fried's rehab game at the one and only ever Rome Braves game I got to go to. Now the Rome Emperors, of course. You got to see Ignacio Nacho Alvarez, who is the potential shortstop of the future. I caught a lot of people by surprise last year in the game I got to saw him at. Brother hit 2 bombs. Yeah, two. Had some great plays defensively. Definitely not the. He's definitely not a strength defensively at shortstop, but I'll tell you this: he's a lot better than Grissom. And so there's some room to grow. D'Anthony wasn't great when he first started either. And so super excited for him. He's had a great spring. He's been playing a lot with the regulars in the road games. So, if RC is not the guy, which he's not going to be long term, you got him for a couple years cheap. This Nacho Alvarez guy, for those of you that don't know the name already, learn it because he could be your shortstop every day at Truist Park as soon as, May of 2025. And that's how I feel about Waldrop too. I think he's in your rotation full time with the service time rollover May of 2025. Waldrop, same thing. Drake Baldwin, the catcher, third round pick out of Mississippi State. I think he's your eventual Travis Darno replacement, the lefty. Travis only probably has a year or two left in him before he retires. And this guy can rake, a little bit of a better framer than Travis. They like where he's at. And I think he'll probably start in Double A as well, Mississippi, before they move, I believe, to in-state next year as well. I think they're moving to Columbus, if I'm not mistaken. So every minor league team is going to be in-state except for the Spring Training Complex League, which is south of Tampa. So not too far away from the state either way, a couple hour drive from the state border. But yeah, Drake Baldwin probably the eventual Travis Darno replacement. And this farm system is retooling in front of our eyes. The last couple of years, the Braves have made some nifty trades in the offseason, kind of retooling for comp picks, taking over slot guys with the money that's been freed up, and now them being able to get back in international waters that they were banned for so many years. This farm system is really starting to come back in the perfect way possible as soon as we start to lose some guys. Luis Guillorme and David Fletcher are both fighting for that middle, infield bench spot because you got a feeling that it's probably going to be Travis Darno. Forrest Wall, the way he's playing, is going to make it, and they'll probably run a 4-man bench. So it's probably going to be one of those two guys and like a Jordan Luplow to make it. But Guillorme, who Alex Anthopolous spoke really highly of, has only taken 5 spring training at bats. Signed the 1-year deal from the Mets, and I was telling you this before we got on camera, Micah. Guillorme is a very, very nice player, from what I've heard. There's a reason that the Mets fans beloved him so much. He was very big in the clubhouse, very nice guy. He's a lefty, got the nice lumberjack looking beard, really good defensively. Killed Darren O'Day, hit 2 homers off of him in 2022 with the Mets against the Braves. That was definitely annoying. But haven't seen him at all this spring, at all. Every time I tune in, it's David Fletcher, and David Fletcher was someone who they got in after they traded Nicky Lopez, who I think for the price difference is an upgrade. This guy was at once upon a time got a really good contract from the Los Angeles Angels and just could never learn how to hit for power. Great defender himself though, and he's having a pretty good spring and playing almost every day. So the only issue with him is he's on the minor league deal, so there's a good chance that he goes back to the minors. Guillorme gets the spot, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw both of these guys playing bench getaway day moments for the Braves this year. Lastly, on the cleanup, before I bring you back into the room, Micah, unless you have anything to bump in and say, feel free whenever. Jordan Luplow, JP Martinez, he already got sent back down to camp. Jordan Luplow hit a bomb the other day. He's kind of like Adam Duvall light. He's like a younger Adam Duvall, crushes lefties, hits the homers, a lot of RBIs, but also a good bit of strikeouts. But, someone that you just need behind Kelenic in case he's having a little bit of a slump against lefties, as I talked about earlier. Michael, lefty can be tough. That's why I wanted the Braves to go out and sign one more outfielder that's plus defensively. That's a righty, just to be behind Kelenic. And Forrest Wall would be that if he was a righty. He's a plus base stealer, really quick, but he's also a lefty himself. But he's raking right now with a near 1.5 thousand OPS, which has got to be good enough to make the opening day roster, hitting like 460. And Jordan Luplow as well has been hot recently. Now, Dylan Lee and Ray Kerr is a really interesting conversation because of the fact that Tyler Matzik might be starting the year on the injured list, and the rehab assignment, I should say. It opens the door for one of these guys to get that spot for opening day, because you can count on AJ Minter being in as your 8th inning guy. Aaron Bummer, as if he's healthy, which he is right now, and I'm gonna knock on wood while saying so. He's probably going to be your second lefty. The Braves will probably carry 3 at max. They carried 2 last year. It wasn't enough. You'll probably see him carry 3 in the regular season in the bullpen at a time. There's a good chance that whoever has the better spring training out of these two, and right now it's pretty down the middle. They're both kind of struggling evenly. Jalen Lee, of course, former stud with the Braves until he had the dead arm, the same thing that Matzek suffered in 2022 last year. So, looking to see him bounce back. He gave up a couple bombs the other night to the Yankees regulars. It wasn't pretty, but I'll be interested to see which one of these guys takes the bull by the horn and is able to win the job out of spring training with Matzek going on the injured list and really having a chance to make their mark on the team first. All right, Micah, we probably got about 15 minutes or so left. So I'm gonna bring you back in here. Had to do some house cleaning, and let's talk about some of like the actual major league storylines that have gone on recently. About a week ago, Ronald Acuna Jr. was running in a pickle in the infield grass in training. Like, I love you, Ronald. I love how much you care. You are fun, but why are you running in the grass? Why? A year and a half removed from an ACL surgery, why you twisting and ducking and turning around in a pickle in the third inning of a Wednesday afternoon spring training game? It's not that worth it. And honestly, the meniscus doesn't even react if you're running in the dirt, but you're running in the infield grass. No, dude. Stop. And so, super lucky. The Braves were super, super lucky. It was eerie there for a little bit, Micah. It went from he's probably going to play Sunday to he doesn't need an MRI to, oh, they're sending him to LA to go see his doctor that did the surgery. And thank God nothing happened. And he's okay. And he's probably going to return to playing games by the end of the week. He's already playing bullpen simulation. But man, oh man, was that stupid. And what were your thoughts when you first heard that news for the first time? Were you like, oh no, not again?
Man, I thought he was gonna be. I don't want to say, I don't want to put it out there in the air, but I thought the worst, and I'm glad it didn't happen. Um, he felt discomfort in his knee, and they just said said it was irritation around his meniscus, and he should be ready for the start of the season. So that was the best news we could receive. Um, but like Blake says, it's just not that serious for him to be doing that in a spring training game. It's not. It's everybody say play the game like it's your last, or practice how you play and all that, and I understand all that. But at the same time, when you're the star player coming off of a serious injury that could be a career ending injury, you just can't do something to um sacrifice your health or risk getting injured or further injuring yourself. But like I said, we got the best news we could have asked for, and he's still healthy. He's gonna be ready for the start of the season. Um, but that was a real scare for Braves fans all over the world.
And then I'll go ahead and ask you this right away regarding Michael Harris. People think that he is going to be the next breakout candidate to take that star leap. This year people look at him as a potential 300 hitter, plus average, and maybe be that full time two-hole hitter for the Braves. As someone who is uh, a reverse split guy, is a good lefty hitter, is a good contact hitter in general, and has just been crushing the ball in spring training. A lot of people are thinking he's going to be that next guy to go from good to great in this lineup. How much do you take in that, and what are your sky high expectations for the hometown kid from Stockbridge, Georgia?
I mean, it's just been like a storybook type of career for Michael Harris so far. Um, Coming out of the minors, coming to the Braves, winning Rookie of the Year, getting paid, and on a World Series team, with guys like Ronald Acuna Jr. or uh, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Sean Murphy. You got so much talent on his team, and Michael Harris. I believe it can be his breakout year. He's been very good for us. A great center fielder, uh, and the sky's the limit for him. He's still young, has a whole bunch of potential, and he's a great guy. Uh, I love seeing his fandom around. All of Atlanta. He's like us off of the baseball field. he's still a young guy. He loves the Falcons, the Hawks. He's active on Twitter. He's a great guy, and I wish the best for Money Mike. Or want to see this be his breakout year and uh his best year, and he continue to get better year after year. Because the best is yet to come for Michael Harris.
I completely agree, and I think the people like Kevin Keneally and Sports Talk ATL that have parlay tickets of Michael Harris winning MVP, they're gonna have a really good chance to win themselves some money in about half a year. Now, let's talk about Spencer Strider, of course, adding the new curveball, which is going to be an absolute disgusting pitch, Micah. I don't know if you understand this. Man, Spencer Strider is already a good enough pitcher as it is. Has that four-seamer with rise to near 100 miles an hour, that slider, which is a wipeout. And it's hard to throw that slider to lefties because it kind of slides into their batting box, you know what I mean? It's hard to hit them, so that's where he throws that changeup to the lefties about 5% of the time. And he kind of spoke on that he's probably not going to do much else with that. But regarding it, you'll have Spencer Strider out there, but he's also adding a new curveball, which is going to go in a completely different arm slot in a completely different way from his fastball and his slider, making him even harder to hit than he already is, which is just amazing to hear as a Braves fan. And simultaneously to that, he added a two-seamer. So he's got a fastball that moves with a little bit of sink. So he has the sink, the rise, and the two different off speeds. Still kept the changeup for fun. And this is going to be, I think, the type of adjustment to take him into a Cy Young level pitcher. What about you, Micah?
Man, just to see how great Spencer Strider already is, see him adding something else, that's scary for other teams. And as a fan of him and this team, it's amazing to see that he hasn't gotten comfortable or complacent. He's still looking to improve and get better. And like you said, it's already hard to hit him. Now he's adding something else that's going to make him even harder to hit. So you love to see stuff like this, and uh, Spencer Strider is already a fan favorite, the stash. So I'm glad to see him continue to improve, and he's another player that I'm looking forward to watch this season.
Really hoping so. Regarding the Max Fried contract season, I'm actually going to save that for next week's show because we're doing this again next week, right, Micah?
Yes, sir. Yes,
All
sir.
right, we'll see you guys next week for that. But this topic kind of goes with it. I of course had the chance to go to Brace Fest on January 25th. I want to say it was this year. Amazing day, by the way. Had a hell of a lot of fun, like I usually do. One of my favorite events in the winter. And I've been on the record all offseason about wanting the Braves to extend Max Fried, and I feel like AA's only weakness as a general manager has to deal with starting pitching. So I went out and I made this extend Max Fried sign that went, I wouldn't say viral, but it made the rounds on social media regarding, my thought process on Max Fried and what the Braves need to do. And my hopes that, they keep their ace around, and it's not the same pathway that it was with Freddie Freeman and with Dansby Swanson. Trying to pull up a picture for those to see at home. But I did have a chance to talk to Max Fried. Didn't get like a video with him, but he saw it. He dapped me up. He was smiling, like awesome interaction with Max. But to close things out tonight, and we'll leave some of these topics, the bottom three here, don't touch them for next week, Micah. We'll just keep them at the bottom of the Falcon show in a couple days. But want to end the night here with a couple minute video that of myself talking to Alex Anthopolous with my Extend Max Fried sign about extending the other Braves ace southpaw. Let's take a look.
Things we weigh all those things.
Back here in the corner.
This is the Max Fried sign, gentlemen.
Yes. Ben, appreciate you for setting up the sign. Alex, two things that we've learned very much since you've taken over here, and we appreciate everything you've done for this organization. You've not been afraid to extend players whenever you feel like they're ready. You've been able to keep them here long term. Secondly, I'm sure you can admit yourself, there's been a couple acquisitions regarding starting pitching that I'm sure haven't gone exactly the way you wanted in regards of return. So, even the last two postseasons, I'm sure you wanted your rotation to look a lot healthier going into these two series. Regarding the poster, what can you do to make sure Max Fried doesn't leave us for California?
There's a great way around. It's like the back door, side door. We could pass the hat, have everybody throw something in, and just deliver it to him today. He's here today, so we should get him up on the stage. Look, I mean, it's the same thing, right? He's awesome. We don't win the World Series without him. I can go on and on. He enjoys it here. But look, like anything, and it's fair, right, guys? I tell guys all the time, like, I want you to get more expensive, you know? Like, we gave Austin Riley the biggest contract in the history of the Braves. I love that we did, because that means he was good enough to get it, right? Like, it doesn't do us any good if guys get hurt or guys don't perform well. Like, we're not rooting against these guys. So all these guys that are going to be free agents and so on, you know, the more expensive they get, the more games we're winning. So we're rooting for that, right? So, I mean, look, like anything, the big thing with all these decisions, and this is the hardest part about this job, is you have all these great players, and especially with a really good team, the way the system's set up is your team's just going to get more expensive no matter what, right? Just, you know, these guys, these good young players, they're going to get more expensive, and that's the whole goal. So you could bring the same team back each year, and you're going to get that much more expensive. And you have to ultimately, you know, we don't have a salary cap, but ultimately we don't just spend. We've gone up, we're in the top 10 and so on, but we have to make tough calls, right? And ultimately it ends up falling on me, and I have to be the bad guy. You know, sometimes we have to let guys walk. So, you know, we mentioned him before, but Nicky Lopez was awesome for this team. Phenomenal. Great fit. Great clubhouse guy. Beloved. Knows his role. Left-handed, contact, all that kind of stuff. But with where we're at with the roster, you know, he got over $4 million, and he earned it. He deserves it, you know. But at the end of the day, and that's not a huge dollar amount, but there's only so much pie, right? There's only so we don't want to be in a position where, and I've said this before to players, in theory, you could play a player anything you want, right? It's just who you're going to surround them with. So there is no dollar amount. You could go pay one player 80% of your team payroll and keep the player, and everyone's excited. But at the end of the day, you know, we had guys like Freddie Freeman here before I got here going through a rebuild, right? All-star MVP caliber player. He can't do it alone. And we need to have a good, productive team. So the toughest thing for us is with all of our free agents and our players is, can we find a number, an agreement that is fair to them, that makes sense for them, that also allows us to continue to build a team? And, you know, we have a lot of guys that are going to make 15 to 20 million bucks, for example, and our payroll's in the 200s, low 200s. You know, you have 10 guys like that. That's $200 million, right? And now you have another 16 spots to fill out. So Luis Guillorme, we really like him. We think he's a good player. We would have loved to have kept Nicky Lopez, but you know, we're going to give Guillorme a shot. He had a down year. We think he's better than he played. We think he has a chance to be that type of player, and I hope he does, and he does as well. But those are the tough decisions we have to make, and it's tough because you got to balance it. That doesn't mean we're not going to sign guys or try to sign guys or keep them. But when we set a value on a player, it's not what we think they could get and so on. It's, hey, what's the most that we think we can do and still maintain a good club? And our players will tell you the same thing. They want to be here. They want to stay here. They obviously want to do as well as they can. We don't want to be in a position that we sign a bunch of guys and then 2-3 years later, we have to trade them away because the payroll doesn't work.
Appreciate you.
Good time for one or two more. And this young lady in the ATL hat's been very patient. If we can get
So there was me with Alex Anthopolous about a month ago. Had a chance to talk to him about the Max Fried sign, and shout out to him and my buddy Ben Ingram who mentioned the sign. And also here's the sign for those of you that haven't seen the round. The hole that you see is my green screen, but it was a little dollar sign that I painted in green to extend your ace Max Fried with him from his World Series start. So it was ultimately an awesome time, and I hope to. I plan on taking that to I plan on going to every home Max Fried start this year, Micah, and bringing that sign and bringing it back and back and back. I'm going to do my part to try to get Max Fried here long term and get him that fair market value deal, which we will talk about next week, along with, so you guys can keep an eye out for the show next week. We will talk about how can the Braves get off to another fast start like they did last year for the first time in a while in 2024. If the Braves add anything else to the roster, what may it be? And why? And obviously, you know, we'll talk a little bit more about Max Fried's contract. But we do want to ultimately thank you guys again for watching another episode of Around the A. We told you guys that they're getting quicker, man.
Yes,
We're down
sir.
about 40 minutes already. So, you know, it was another awesome show tonight. We'll see you guys in a couple nights to talk about Kirk Cousins and what other, you know, free agency moves the Falcons. Please, Danielle Hunter. What else the Falcons do?
Slide it.
Mike, you think we'll eventually find some time for a Hawk show eventually? Maybe? I don't know.
No promises, but we'll try.
I will say this, though. Get well soon, Sadiq Bey. Feel
Yes.
so bad for that man. So bad for that man. It's such a sorrow moment on what's been a great day in Atlanta sports today. I really, really wish Sadiq Bey the best in his recovery, and now I kind of, as a pity, want the Hawks to re-sign him to a cheap deal just to make sure that he has a home and has some help next year. Because I hate seeing players get injured like that to um to end a contract, especially how durable he's been in his career. But I think that'll pretty much do it for us tonight regarding around the A. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe down below. Make sure you guys, of course, give us a follow on Twitter once again at Newsman Sports ATL for myself, Micah at Micah TOIN. Make sure you guys give us a follow. We'll follow back, and we'll talk ball with you guys. We love talking Atlanta sports, and we'll talk sports in general. And so yeah, you make sure you guys give a follow on the socials. We're going on Instagram, TikTok as well. We're gonna try to get the YouTube Shorts game going. And again, appreciate you guys tonight. We'll talk to you again soon in a couple days for the Falcons, and we'll do another Braves one next week from now. So can't wait. We'll bring it to you guys. A new episode pretty much every Monday and Tuesday now, and another one at the end of the week. 2 episodes a week. Yeah, you heard us. Micah, any
Sir.
closing statements?
Let's go. Keep building. Like Blake said, 2 episodes a week. We got Falcons come later this week. Y'all keep showing support. Keep subscribing. Keep liking. Keep following. Keep sharing. And let's go. Let's rise up. Let's chop on. We move. Let's go.
The Mets suck, like The Office said. The Mets suck.